The sky over Seoul burned with colors that shouldn't exist. Orange mixed with purple, and strange green lights danced where the alien ships had fallen. Taemin stood on top of a broken building and looked at what used to be his home. 15 years of war had turned the beautiful city into piles of rocks and twisted metal. He was tired. Not just the kind of tired that sleep could fix. This was the kind of tired that went into his bones, into his soul. Taemin had fought for 15 years without stopping. He had watched friends die. He had killed enemies he couldn't count. He had seen Earth almost die, but they won. Somehow, humanity won. The Vrakthul Collective came from somewhere beyond the known stars. They were bigger than humans, stronger, and their technology made human weapons look like toys. They wanted Earth's water and didn't care that billions of people lived here. The war started fast and brutal. Cities disappeared in hours. Entire countries went silent. Humans should have died. Everyone expected it. Even the Vrakthul expected it. But humans didn't die. They fought back with everything they had. When their ships were destroyed, they built new ones. When their weapons failed, they made better weapons. When their soldiers fell, more soldiers stood up. Humans learned to fight in space. They learned to fight on the moon. They learned to fight on Mars and in the asteroid belt. Taemin remembered the final battle above Mars. He was commanding the carrier Indomitable. The Vrakthul brought their war fleet, massive ships that blocked out the sun. Humanity brought everything they had left. The battle lasted 3 days. Jiwon died on the first day. His ship rammed into a Vrakthul command vessel when his weapons ran out. Hyunwoo lasted until day 2. He stayed behind to cover the retreat of civilian transports. Somin made it to day 3. She was right next to Taemin when her station exploded. He still heard her last words sometimes when he closed his eyes. They won that battle. The Vrakthul fleet broke apart and ran. They jumped away into deep space and never came back. Humanity stood on top of mountains of their own dead and called it victory. Now Taemin walked through the ruins and wondered what victory meant. Half of Earth's population was gone. Most cities were destroyed. The oceans were poisoned. The air was full of dust from all the explosions. Scientists said it would take 200 years for Earth to heal naturally. 200 years. That was why Taemin volunteered for the cryo-sleep program. Dr. Minji explained it to him in a clean white room, deep under the Korean mountains. The room was one of the few places that still looked normal. That still looked like the old world. "We can freeze you," Minji said. She looked tired too. Everyone looked tired. "Your body will stop aging. 200 years will pass, but for you it will feel like one night of sleep. When you wake up, Earth will be green again. The cities will be rebuilt. You can help guide humanity into the new age." Taemin looked at his hands. They were scarred from burns and cuts. He was 35 years old, but felt like he was 100. "Why me?" Minji smiled sadly. "Because you're a hero, Captain. People know your name. They know what you did. When you wake up, you'll remind everyone of what we survived. You'll be a bridge between the war generation and the peace generation." "I'm not a hero," Taemin said quietly. "I just didn't die." That's what all heroes say. The cryo facility was built deep inside a mountain. It was protected by layers of rock and metal and defensive systems. They couldn't risk anything happening to the volunteers. 50 people volunteered for the first group. 50 soldiers, scientists, and leaders who would sleep through the recovery and wake up to help rebuild. Taemin met them all before the sleep. There was Kang Min, a scientist who helped develop the weapons that turned the tide of war. There was Suji, a pilot who flew more combat missions than anyone else alive. There was Dongwoo, a doctor who saved thousands of lives in field hospitals while bombs fell around him. They all had the same look in their eyes. They all wanted to stop hurting. They all wanted to believe that the future would be better. The night before the sleep, Taemin couldn't rest. He walked through the facility and ended up in the observation room. Through thick glass, he could see the cryopods. They looked like metal coffins with frost on the glass. Having second thoughts? Minji appeared next to him. I keep thinking about them, Taemin said. Jiwon, Hyunwoo, Somin, all of them. They died so the future could exist. What if I wake up and the future isn't worth what they paid? Minji was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, we have to believe it will be. If we don't believe that, then what did we fight for? Taemin nodded slowly. When I wake up, will you be there? I'll be dust by then, Minji said with a small laugh. But my great-great-great-grandchildren might be. Maybe they'll look like me. Maybe they'll have my eyes. She paused. Sleep well, Captain. Wake up to a better world. The next morning, Taemin put on the white cryo suit. It was thin, but warm. He walked to his assigned pod. Number 7. The number felt right somehow. Lucky 7. Other volunteers were climbing into their pods. Some looked scared, some looked peaceful. He lay down in the pod. The inside was surprisingly comfortable. Soft padding supported his body. Small lights glowed blue along the edges. Minji appeared above him, looking down through the glass. All systems are ready, Captain. Your vitals look good. The sleep will start in 60 seconds. You won't feel anything. You'll just close your eyes here and open them in the future. Minji, Taemin said. Thank you for everything. She smiled. Tears ran down her face, but she kept smiling. No, Captain. Thank you. Thank you for saving us all. The glass cover started to close. Taemin watched Minji's face until the very end. Then the glass sealed with a soft hiss. Cold air filled the pod. It didn't hurt. It felt like lying down in winter grass. Taemin thought about Earth. He thought about green forests and blue oceans. He thought about cities full of people who never knew war. He thought about children playing in parks where battles once raged. His eyes grew heavy. The cold went deeper. His breathing slowed. The last thing Captain Taemin thought before the darkness took him was simple and pure. He thought, let them be happy. Let the future be worth the price we paid. Then he slept. The machines hummed quietly in the dark facility. 50 pods glowed with soft blue light. Inside each one, a piece of humanity's greatest generation waited. They waited for healing. They waited for peace. They waited for a future they helped create, but would never see grow. Outside the facility, Earth began its long recovery. Years passed. Then, decades. Then, centuries. And deep in the mountain, Captain Taemin dreamed of a better tomorrow. Taemin's eyes opened. Something was wrong. The first thing he noticed was the light. It should have been white and clean. The sterile light of the facility. Instead, warm orange light pulsed gently around him. It moved like breathing, like something alive. The second thing he noticed was that he could move. The cryo-sleep should have left him weak and confused. His muscles should have needed time to remember how to work. But his body felt fine. Better than fine. He felt strong. Taemin sat up quickly. The pod around him opened smoothly, silently. He looked around, and his breath caught in his throat. This wasn't the facility. This wasn't anywhere on Earth that he knew. The walls weren't metal or concrete. They were organic, covered in something that looked like living tissue. Veins of light ran through them, pulsing in steady rhythms. The air smelled strange but not bad. Like flowers he'd never encountered. Like rain on alien soil. What? Taemin started to say, but his voice came out rough. He tried again. What is this place? You are awake, a voice said. It spoke perfect Korean, but the sound was wrong. Too many tones at once. Like 3 people talking in harmony. Taemin spun around. His military training kicked in immediately. He dropped into a fighting stance even though he had no weapon. The creature standing before him was impossible. It stood nearly 3 meters tall. Its body was covered in crystalline skin that shifted colors from blue to purple to silver. 4 arms hung at its sides, each hand having 6 long fingers. Its face was almost human-shaped. But the eyes were all wrong. They were large and dark, and inside them galaxies seemed to swirl. Stars and nebulas moved in those depths. Taman should have been afraid. He had fought aliens before. He had killed Vrakthul warriors in close combat. But this creature didn't feel threatening. It stood still, patient, almost gentle in its posture. "Who are you?" Taman demanded. "Where am I? Where is the facility?" The creature tilted its head slightly. "I am called Vormak. I am an ambassador of the Galactic Concordat. You are aboard a medical vessel in orbit around your world. The facility where you slept is now a museum." Museum? The word didn't make sense. How long was I asleep? Vormak's crystalline skin shifted to a darker blue. Taman got the feeling this was some kind of emotional response. "Captain Taman of Earth, you have slept for 847 standard years." The room spun. Taman sat down hard on the edge of the pod. "That's impossible. The program was for 200 years. Only 200. Many things went wrong and right in ways no one expected," Vormak said. He moved closer, his movements fluid and strange. "The cryopods worked better than designed. They kept you and the others perfectly preserved. But the wake-up systems failed. Earth's recovery took longer than predicted. Wars came again. Different wars. By the time the pods were rediscovered, so much time had passed that humanity debated whether to wake you at all. Others? Taman grabbed onto that word. The other volunteers? Most survived the long sleep. Vormak said gently. They are being awakened slowly. You are the third. We did not want to shock you all at once. Taman put his head in his hands. 847 years. Minji was dead. Her great-great-great-grandchildren were dead. Everyone he knew, everyone from his time, all dust and memory. Why wake me at all? He asked quietly. Vormak made a sound like wind chimes. Maybe it was a sigh. Because, Captain Taman, you are legend. The war against the Vrakthul Collective is studied on 3,000 worlds. Your name is taught to children across the galaxy. You are the symbol of humanity's defining moment. Galaxy? Taman looked up sharply. Humanity did not stay on Earth, Vormak said. Once your world healed, your people reached for the stars with intensity that terrified every species we knew. You spread fast. You built fast. You grew fast. Where other species took millions of years to reach nearby stars, humanity did it in centuries. Taman stood up. His head was spinning, but he needed to understand. You said the Galactic Concordat. There are other species? Many species? Thousands, Vormak confirmed. The galaxy is old and full of life. But when humanity emerged, everything changed. You are young, aggressive, creative, and you refuse to accept limitations. Other species expand carefully, over millions of years. Humanity exploded across the stars in less than 1,000. Are we at war? Taman asked. The old instincts came back fast. Is that why you woke me? Do you need soldiers? Vormak's eyes swirled faster. No, Captain. Not war. But not peace either. Humanity is complicated. You saved yourselves from extinction. That struggle shaped your entire civilization. You became the species that refuses to die, that fights when fighting seems impossible, that survives what should kill you. Quote, he gestured with one of his 4 arms. The wall beside them shimmered and became transparent. Taman walked to it and looked out. He forgot how to breathe. Below them was Earth. But it wasn't the Earth he remembered. The planet was still blue and green, still beautiful, but surrounding it were structures that defied belief. Massive rings circled the equator, glowing with lights from millions of habitats. Elevators stretched from the surface to orbit, thin lines connecting ground to sky. Ships moved everywhere, thousands of them, ranging from small shuttles to vessels the size of mountains. "This is home?" Taman whispered. "This is what humanity built," Vormak said. "Earth is the capital of the human sphere, which includes 1,200 colonized worlds, 50,000 space stations, and a population of 7 trillion. Your species became one of the major powers in the galaxy." Taman watched the ships moving in patterns like schools of fish, like dancers in perfect coordination. "You said we're complicated. What did you mean?" Vormak was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. "The Vrakthul Collective attacked you because they believed you were weak. They were wrong. Humanity's response taught the galaxy that you could not be destroyed easily. But the trauma of that war never left your people. Even now, 8 centuries later, humans remember. You prepare. You build. You defend. You expand." "That doesn't sound bad," Taman said. "It is not bad," Vormak agreed. "But it is not entirely good either. Humanity became protectors of weaker species. You stopped several attempted genocides. You mediate disputes. You enforce peace. But some species see your protection as occupation. They see your presence as domination. You are feared as much as you are respected." Taman turned away from the window. "You're saying we became bullies? We became like the Vrakthul?" "No," Vormak said quickly. "Not like them. Humanity is capable of great kindness and terrible violence. You are extremes. That is what makes you unique and dangerous and valuable all at once." A door opened in the organic wall. Taman hadn't even seen it there before. A human woman walked in. Young, maybe 25, wearing a uniform Taman didn't recognize. She stopped when she saw him, and her eyes went wide. "Captain Taman," she whispered. "It's really you." She looked like she might cry or faint, or both. Vormak made the wind chime sound again. "This is Yuna. She is a historian specializing in the contact war period. She has studied your life extensively." Yuna bowed deeply, the traditional Korean bow of great respect. "Sir, I never thought I would meet you. You're in every history book. Every child learns about the Battle of Mars, about how you held the line when everything was lost." Taman felt uncomfortable. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Yuna said firmly. She straightened up, and he saw steel in her eyes. "You did what everyone else said was impossible. You showed the galaxy that humanity would not break. Because of you and people like you, we survived." She pulled out a small device from her pocket. It projected images in the air. Taman saw himself, younger, in his old uniform. He saw the indomitable. He saw battles he'd fought. He saw memorials with his name carved in stone on worlds he'd never heard of. "This is what you became," Yuna said softly. "A legend across the stars." Taman looked at the images and felt something break inside him. He had wanted the future to be better. He had wanted peace, but looking at these memorials, these monuments to war, he wondered if humanity had learned the right lessons. "I want to see more," he said finally. "I need to understand what we became." Vormak's crystalline skin shifted to a warm gold color. "That is why we woke you, Captain. The galaxy needs to see its legends. But perhaps more importantly, humanity needs to remember where it came from." "Then show me," Taman said. "Show me everything." The transport ship that took Taman to the Concordat station was beyond anything he could have imagined. It didn't have engines that he could see. It didn't make noise. It simply moved through space like thought itself, smooth and instant. Yuna sat across from him, unable to stop staring. Vormak stood nearby, his 4 arms folded in a way that seemed contemplative. "How does this ship work?" Taemin asked. Gravity manipulation, Yuna explained. She seemed eager to talk, to share knowledge. We fold space around the ship instead of pushing through it. It's based on principles we learned from the Vrakthul, actually. We took their technology after the war and improved it. Taemin thought about that. Taking enemy technology and making it better. That sounded very human. The viewport showed their destination growing closer. The Concordate station was enormous, a structure that looked like a flower made of metal and light. Petals of different materials spread out from a central core. Each petal was kilometers long. 2 million beings live on that station, Vormak said. Representatives from 800 species. The Concordat exists to maintain peace and resolve disputes without violence. And humans are part of this? Taemin asked. Humans are the backbone of this, Yuna said with obvious pride. When the Concordat was formed 300 years ago, humanity provided the military force to make it work. We enforce the peace. Something about the way she said that bothered Taemin, but he didn't know why yet. They docked at one of the petals. As they walked through corridors, Taemin saw beings of every shape and size imaginable. Creatures with wings made of light. Beings that floated in liquid-filled spheres. Things that were just clouds of particles that somehow thought and moved. And everywhere, humans. The humans wore uniforms similar to military dress, clean and sharp. They walked with confidence. Other species moved aside for them. Taemin noticed that. The deference. The way a crowd of aliens would part when humans approached. Why do they move for us? He asked quietly. Yuna blinked, confused by the question. Or because they're afraid, Vormak said softly. His eyes swirled with dark colors. They entered a massive chamber that took Taemin's breath away. It was like an amphitheater from ancient Earth, but huge beyond reason. Tiers of seats rose up in circles, each tier holding different species. At the center was a floor where delegates could speak. The Concordat Council, Vormak explained. This is where we make decisions that affect the galaxy. Taemin was led to the central floor. Thousands of eyes from hundreds of species turned to look at him. He felt the weight of their attention, like pressure, on his skin. A being made entirely of crystal formations spoke first. Its voice came from vibrations in the air. Captain Taemin of Earth, you are recognized as a hero of the Contact War. Welcome to the galactic community. More beings spoke, offering greetings in languages that translators converted to Korean. They all knew him. They all knew what he'd done. It was overwhelming. Then a human voice cut through the others. Captain Taemin, permission to approach. A man in a dark uniform walked forward. He was young, maybe 40, with sharp features and eyes that reminded Taemin of someone. The man stopped and saluted. With perfect precision. Fleet Admiral Doyun, sir. Commander of the 3rd Human Fleet. It's an honor to meet you. Taemin returned the salute automatically. Admiral, you remind me of someone. Hyunwoo was my ancestor, Doyun said. His expression was controlled, but Taemin could see emotion underneath. My great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. He died in the Battle of Mars, covering civilian transports. Family history says you were his commanding officer. Taemin felt his throat tighten. He was brave, one of the best people I knew. His sacrifice meant my family line continued, Doyun said. Those transports carried my ancestors. Everything I am exists because of what you and he did. The Admiral gestured for Taemin to follow. They left the council chamber and walked to a quieter area. Vormak and Yuna came too. I need to explain something to you, Doyun said once they were alone. The galaxy sees humanity as peacekeepers and protectors. That's true. But it's not the whole truth. He pulled up holographic displays. Taemin saw star maps with human territory marked in blue. It spread across a huge section of the galaxy. 1,200 colony worlds, Doyun said. 500 protectorate systems, where we provide defense. 300 allied species, who depend on our military. We are the strongest single power in known space. That sounds like we did well, Taemin said carefully. We did, Do-yoon agreed. But Captain, strength creates problems. Some species joined us willingly. Others had no choice. When the Korvath swarms threatened to consume the Pelion sector, we intervened. We saved billions of lives. But afterward, we stayed. We built bases. We established temporary governments that became permanent. The Pelions are safe now, but they're not really free. Yuna looked uncomfortable. That's not fair, Admiral. The Pelions asked us to stay. They were too weak to defend themselves. They asked us to help, Do-yoon corrected. Not to rule. Vormak's crystalline skin shifted through several colors. This is the complexity I mentioned. Captain, humanity saved many species from extinction. The Ralph, the Visiri, the Tolmec civilization. All would be gone without human intervention. But intervention became occupation. Protection became control. Taemin walked to a viewport and looked out at the stars. We became what we hated. No, Do-yoon said firmly. We're not the Vrakthul. We don't genocide. We don't conquer for resources. But we did become arrogant. We survived the impossible, so we think we know best. We fought the greatest war in our history, so we think we understand combat better than anyone. And often, we're right. But being right doesn't give us the right to decide for everyone. A chime sounded. Yuna checked her device. Captain, there's someone else who wants to meet you. Another person from the cryo program. There were Junus 9. About one Pervises. And Lake Ingata. When Yuna checked her device, they took him to a medical bay where a woman waited. She was older than Taemin remembered. But he recognized her immediately. Suji, he breathed. The pilot from his time smiled. She looked tired but healthy. Hello, Taemin. They woke me 3 months ago. I'm still trying to understand everything. They embraced briefly. It felt good to touch someone from his own time, someone who remembered the real world. What do you think of all this? He asked her. Suji glanced at the others, then led Taemin to a corner where they could speak more privately. I think we won the war, but might be losing ourselves. I've been studying what happened. After Earth healed, humans were so afraid of another attack that we built the strongest military in the galaxy. We told ourselves it was for protection. But protection became prevention. Prevention became intervention. And now we're everywhere, controlling everything, and calling it peacekeeping. Can it be changed? Taemin asked. I don't know, Suji admitted. But I know this. You're famous, Taemin. More famous than you can imagine. When people see you, they remember why we fought. They remember that we were defending our home, not conquering others. Maybe your voice can remind humanity of who we were supposed to be. Later, Yuna took him to a museum section of the station. It was dedicated to the contact war. Taemin walked through displays of artifacts from his time. Weapons he'd used, pieces of ships he'd commanded, uniforms like the one he wore. But the thing that stopped him cold was a wall covered in names. Millions of names. Every human who died in the war. Taemin found them. Jiwon, Hyunwoo, Somin. Their names carved in light, preserved forever. We remember, Yuna said softly beside him. But do they learn the right lessons? Taemin asked. Do they learn that we fought to defend, not to conquer? Do they understand that survival doesn't mean we get to dominate? Yuna was quiet for a long time. I think we forgot that somewhere along the way. Vormak approached them. His presence was gentle despite his size. Captain Taemin, I have a request. The Concordat would like you to travel with me. To see different worlds. To witness what humanity has built and what it has taken. Your perspective, as someone from before the expansion, is valuable. Why? Taemin asked. What difference would it make? Because legends can change minds. Vormak said. And the galaxy needs minds to change. Human minds especially. Before the weight of your empire crushes the very ideals it was built to protect. Taman looked at the wall of names one more time. All those people who died, believing in something better. He couldn't let their sacrifice lead to something wrong. I'll go, he said. Show me what we became. All of it. The good and the bad. There is much of both, Vormak warned. Then I need to see it all. The first world Vormak took Taman to was called Keshul IV. From orbit, it looked beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting peacefully. Cities glowed on the dark side of the planet like jewels. The Keshul people were dying when humans found them, Vormak explained, as their ship descended. A plague had wiped out 60% of their population. Their medical science couldn't stop it. Human doctors arrived within weeks of first contact. They cured the plague in 6 months. That sounds like something to be proud of, Taman said. It is, Vormak agreed. But watch what came after. They landed in the capital city. The architecture was alien but elegant. Buildings that curved like plants growing toward the sun. But among the organic shapes were human structures, angular and efficient. Military bases. Administrative buildings. Guard towers. A Keshul delegation met them. The beings were tall and thin, with skin that changed colors based on their emotions. Their representative, a being whose skin flickered between blue and green, bowed deeply to Taman. Captain Taman, we are honored. Humanity saved our species from extinction. I'm glad my people could help, Taman said. The Keshul's skin flashed yellow briefly. Fear, Vormak had taught him. Yes. Help. 50 years of help. They were taken on a tour of the city. Everywhere Taman looked, he saw human soldiers. Not many, but enough. They stood at intersections. They guarded important buildings. The Keshul people moved around them with careful politeness. At the government building, Taman met the Keshul leadership. But sitting at the head table was a human administrator named Dabin. He was young, confident, and clearly in charge. The Keshul Council makes local decisions, Dabin explained. But major policy goes through the Human Advisory Board. It's for their protection. They don't have experience with galactic politics. How long will they need advisors? Taman asked. Dabin shrugged. Until they're ready. Could be decades, could be centuries. We can't risk them falling into crisis again. After the meeting, the Keshul representative approached Taman privately. Its skin was dark, purple now. Sadness. We are grateful, it said quietly. Truly. But we are also prisoners. We cannot make treaties without human approval. We cannot build our own defense force. Our children learn human history before they learn our own. We traded the plague for a different kind of sickness. Taman had no answer for that. The second world was called the Praxis Ring. It wasn't a planet, but a massive space station on the edge of human territory. Vormak explained that refugees came here, beings fleeing from various conflicts and disasters. The station was overcrowded and chaotic. Thousands of species mixed together in tight corridors. The air smelled of too many different atmospheres, mixing badly. Arguments erupted constantly in languages Taman's translator struggled to process. A human woman named Hana met them at the docking bay. She was young, maybe 30, with intense eyes and a tired expression. Welcome to the place humanity doesn't like to talk about, she said, without preamble. I'm Hana. I run the refugee assistance program here. Vormak said you wanted to meet me, Taman said. I wanted you to see this, Hana corrected. Some are from worlds that refuse to join the protection programs. Some are from species that lost wars against human-backed factions. Some just couldn't live under human authority anymore. They entered a section where families huddled in small spaces. Children of various species played with improvised toys. Adults looked at Taman with expressions ranging from hope to suspicion to fear. You're a hero, Hana said. Everyone knows your story. You fought to save humanity from extinction. It's a beautiful story. But Captain, do you know what humanity did with that survival? She pulled up holographic displays, showing military actions across decades. Human fleets intervening in conflicts. Human forces establishing control. Human administrators taking over governments. We decided that because we survived the impossible, we knew how everyone else should live. We became the galaxy's parents, whether anyone asked for parents or not, and when people resist, we call them ungrateful or dangerous. Taemin watched a recording of a human fleet surrounding a planet. The voiceover explained that the planet had refused to join a defense pact. The fleet stayed for 3 months until the planet agreed. It was called a diplomatic success. This isn't what we fought for, Taemin said, quietly. I know, Hana replied. That's why I wanted you to see it. Maybe if legends like you speak out, things can change. The third location was completely different. New Busan Colony was a world jointly settled by humans and 3 alien species. As they approached, Taemin saw cities designed for multiple body types and needs. Architecture that blended human, Vasiri, Tolmec, and Rolth styles into something entirely new. They landed in a busy marketplace. Humans haggled with Vasiri merchants. Tolmec musicians played instruments, while Rolth dancers moved to the rhythm. Children of different species played together, switching between languages without thinking about it. A human man named Junho greeted them. He ran the colony's cultural exchange program. This is what humanity can be, Junho said proudly. Not rulers. Not protectors. Just neighbors. We built this colony together. We share government equally. We learn from each other. Taemin watched a human child and a Vasiri child racing each other, laughing in the universal language of play. It made something in his chest ache. Why aren't more colonies like this? He asked. Junho's smile faded. Because it's hard. It requires giving up control. It requires admitting we don't have all the answers. Most humans aren't ready for that. They'd rather be in charge and call it protection. The final destination was a world called Sanctuary. Vormak said nothing about it during the journey. Just that Taemin needed to see it. Sanctuary was small. A moon orbiting a gas giant. It had been terraformed, but not heavily developed. Natural forests still covered most of the surface. Cities were small and carefully integrated with the environment. When they landed, Taemin saw beings of hundreds of species living together. But there was something different about this place. Something in the way people moved and interacted. There was no deference, no fear, just community. A woman approached them across the landing field. She was human, older, maybe in her 60s, but she moved like a soldier. Her eyes were sharp and familiar. Taemin's breath caught. Unji? Lieutenant Yunji smiled. Tears ran down her face. Hello, Captain. I wondered if they'd ever wake you. They embraced tightly. Unji had been his right hand during the war, brilliant and brave, and absolutely loyal. He thought she died when the facility was lost during the recovery period. I was in Cryopod 23, Yunji explained as they walked through Sanctuary together. They woke me 300 years ago. I woke up to humanity as a galactic power, and I didn't like what I saw. She showed him what she'd built. Sanctuary was a community founded on cooperation, not hierarchy. Humans and aliens governed together. Technology was shared freely. Military forces were purely defensive and controlled by a council of all species. This is what I thought we were fighting for, Unji said. Not human dominance. Not human control. Just the right for all species to live freely and safely. They sat in a garden where human flowers grew next to alien plants. Children played nearby, a mix of species so natural, it brought tears to Taemin's eyes. The galaxy sees humanity as peacekeepers, Yunji continued. But Taemin, we're not keeping peace. We're enforcing our version of it. We're deciding for everyone what's safe and what's dangerous. We're making the same mistake the Vrakthul made. We're assuming we have the right to determine other species' fates. 1. 1. 1. Can it change? Taman asked. It has to, Unji said firmly. Because if it doesn't, eventually the galaxy will fight back. And this time, we won't be the underdogs fighting for survival. We'll be the empire being torn down. Vormak joined them. His crystalline skin was a warm gold color. Sanctuary is proof that another path exists. But it is small. The human sphere is vast. Change requires voices that all humans will hear. My voice, Taman realized. Your legend, Yunji corrected. You represent humanity at its best, fighting to defend, not to conquer. If you speak, people will listen. That night, alarms screamed across Sanctuary. Taman ran to the command center with Yunji and Vormak. Screens showed ships approaching. Human ships. Human first movement. Unji said grimly. Extremists who believe humanity should rule alone. They've attacked Sanctuary before because we represent everything they hate. Taman watched the ships getting closer. He recognized the tactics, military formation, aggressive approach. They meant to destroy this place. We have to fight, he said. Unji looked at him with sad eyes. Yes, we do. The human first movement fleet consisted of 12 warships, all modern designs that made the vessels from Taman's time look like toys. Their commander broadcast a message across all frequencies. Sanctuary is a betrayal of human destiny. You dilute our strength by mixing with inferior species. Surrender or be destroyed. Unji's hand hovered over the defense controls. Sanctuary had weapons, but they were designed for defense against pirates, not military fleets. She looked at Taman with eyes that had seen too much war already. We have 300 people on the surface, she said quietly. 67 species. Most are civilians. Families. Children. Taman studied the tactical display. The old instincts came back sharp and clear. He saw the enemy formation, recognized the weaknesses. These commanders were aggressive, but not creative. They relied on superior firepower, not strategy. Let me talk to them, he said. Unji opened a channel. Taman stood before the communication array, aware that his image was being broadcast to the attacking fleet. This is Captain Taman, commander of the carrier Indomitable, hero of the Battle of Mars. Stand down immediately. There was silence. Then a young man's face appeared on the screen. He wore a uniform with symbols Taman didn't recognize, but the arrogance was familiar. Every empire in history produced men like this. Captain Taman, the man said, and his voice shook slightly. It's an honor. I grew up studying your battles. You saved humanity. 2. Then honor that by standing down, Taman said firmly. These people are not your enemy. They corrupt human purity, the man insisted. We fought for survival. We earned the right to rule the galaxy. These traitors want to give that away. We fought to defend our home, Taman corrected. Not to conquer others. If you studied my battles, you know I fought alongside anyone who would stand against extinction. Species didn't matter. Survival mattered. The young commander's face hardened. You're from a different time. You don't understand the galaxy now. We're strong because we stay separate. Stay pure. Stay dominant. I understand perfectly, Taman said. You're afraid. You're so terrified of being weak again that you became bullies. Last warning, the commander said. Surrender or we open fire. Taman closed his eyes briefly. He'd hoped words would be enough. They never were. Unji, what assets do we have? 4 defense satellites, 2 patrol ships, and hope. She replied. That's more than I had at Mars, Taman said. Get me tactical command. And broadcast this fight to everywhere. Every human world, every Concordate station. I want everyone to see what happens. Yuna, who had arrived with them on Sanctuary, quickly set up the broadcast network. Within minutes, Taman's face was being transmitted across the galaxy. Billions of beings would watch what happened next. The human First Fleet opened fire. Their weapons lit up space with deadly light. But Taman was ready. He'd studied the modern ship capabilities during his journey with Vormak. He knew their strengths and their weaknesses. Defense satellites target their sensor arrays, he commanded. Don't try to destroy them. Blind them. Patrol ships. Use the moon's gravity well. They have more firepower, but you have maneuverability. The battle began. It was nothing like the grand conflicts of Taman's time. No massive fleets exchanging fire for days. This was quick and brutal and precise. Sanctuary's defenders fought with desperate courage. The patrol ships danced through weapons fire that should have destroyed them. The defense satellites coordinated in patterns that confused the enemy's targeting systems. And Taman commanded them all with the skill that had made him legendary. But they were still losing. One patrol ship took damage and went spinning away. A defense satellite exploded in a ball of fire. Then help arrived. Ships jumped into the system from multiple directions. Vormak's Concordat vessel. Admiral Doyun's Third Fleet. Even ships from the Keshel system and the Praxis Ring. The broadcast had worked. People were watching. And some chose to act. Doyun's voice came over the communication channel. Captain Taman. Third Fleet reporting. We're here to defend Sanctuary. Admiral, you're risking your career, Taman said. I'm honoring my ancestors' sacrifice, Doyun replied. Hyunwoo didn't die, so humanity could become tyrants. Third Fleet, engage the extremist forces. Protect Sanctuary. The battle turned. The human First Movement Fleet found itself outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Their commander's face reappeared. Angry and desperate. You're fighting your own people. No, Taman said calmly. I'm fighting for what humanity should be. Stand down. Or be destroyed. The extremist fleet retreated, jumping away before they could be captured. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough. As the last enemy ship vanished, Taman took a long breath. Unji put a hand on his shoulder. That was broadcast everywhere, she said. The whole galaxy watched you fight against human extremism. Then, good, Taman said. Now let's give them something more to watch. An hour later, Taman stood before communication arrays that connected to the entire Concordat. His image was being sent to 3,000 worlds. 7 trillion humans would see this. Countless more aliens would watch. He wore his old uniform, preserved from his time. It was simple and worn. Nothing like the elaborate designs of modern military dress. But it carried weight. My name is Captain Taman, he began. 847 years ago, I went to sleep, believing I had fought for humanity's survival. I woke up to discover that humanity not only survived but thrived. We spread across the galaxy. We became strong. We became powerful. He paused, letting his words sink in. But I also woke up to learn that we became something I didn't recognize. We became the species that occupies other worlds for their own good. We became the species that decides what's best for everyone. We became the species that mistakes strength for righteousness. Anger flashed across his face. I fought the Vrakthul collective because they believed might gave them the right to destroy. They were stronger than us, so they assumed they could take what they wanted. We proved them wrong through courage and sacrifice. Millions died to show the galaxy that strength doesn't equal right. His voice grew softer, sadder. But now I see humanity making the same assumption. We survived the impossible, so we think we know better than everyone else. We built the strongest military, so we think we should control the galaxy. We became peacekeepers, but peace enforced at gunpoint isn't peace. He gestured to where Yunji stood, and the cameras showed Sanctuary behind them. Humans and aliens working together. Living together. This is what I thought I was fighting for. Not human dominance. Not human control. Just the simple right for all species to live freely and safely. Sanctuary proves that cooperation works, that sharing power works, that we don't have to rule to be strong. Tamen's expression hardened. I've seen the Keshal people, saved from plague but trapped in our protection. I've seen refugees fleeing human expansion. I've seen extremists who want humanity to rule alone. And I've seen places like New Busan and Sanctuary, where different species build something better together. He looked directly into the camera. Humanity, we won the war. We survived. We thrived. But survival isn't enough. Being strong isn't enough. We have to be worthy of the peace we won. We have to honor the sacrifices of everyone who died by building something worth dying for. His voice grew passionate. The Vrakthul taught us we could survive anything. Now we need to teach ourselves we can share everything. We need to prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our military or our technology. It's our ability to learn, to change, to become better. Taman stood straighter. I'm not asking humanity to become weak. I'm asking us to become wise. I'm not asking us to surrender our power. I'm asking us to share it. The galaxy doesn't need human rulers. It needs human partners. He looked at something off camera, at the garden, where children of different species played together. Every soldier who died in the contact war believed they were protecting the future. Let's make sure that future is worth what they paid. Let's build a galaxy where strength serves justice, where power protects freedom, and where humanity stands not above other species, but beside them. Taman's final words were quiet but firm. I fought to save humanity. Now I'll fight to save humanity from itself. Join me. Prove that we learned the right lessons from our darkest hour. Prove that we're more than survivors. Prove that we're builders of a better tomorrow. The broadcast ended. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Some humans called Taman a traitor. Some called him a savior. Protests erupted on hundreds of worlds. But something had shifted. The conversation changed. Admiral Doyun visited Sanctuary 3 days later. He brought news that the human sphere government was forming committees to review occupation policies. It wasn't much, but it was a start. You created chaos, Doyun said with a slight smile. Half the military is arguing about whether you're right. The other half is arguing about what to do if you are. Good, Taman replied. Chaos means people are thinking. Over the following weeks, more changes came. Some protectorate worlds were given more autonomy. Refugee programs received better funding. New Busan Colony became a model that other settlements studied. It wasn't a revolution. It was barely the beginning of change. But it was movement in the right direction. Taman chose to stay on Sanctuary with Yunji. Vormak remained as well, serving as a link between Sanctuary and the Concordat. Yuna established a school where human and alien children learned together. Hana brought some refugees from Praxis Ring to Sanctuary. They built new homes, new lives. Slowly, carefully, the community grew. One evening, Taman stood on a hill overlooking Sanctuary's main settlement. Lights glowed warm in the growing darkness. He could hear laughter and music from different species mixing together. Yuna found him there. She'd become his friend and advisor, helping him understand the modern galaxy. Do you regret waking up? She asked. Taman thought about it. He thought about everyone he'd lost. He thought about the weight of being a legend. He thought about the hard battles still ahead. Then he looked at Sanctuary, at the impossible community thriving below, and smiled. I thought I'd wake to a restored Earth, he said quietly. Instead, I woke to something no human expected. A chance to prove we're more than survivors. A chance to show we're builders. A chance to create something worth all the sacrifice. He turned to Yuna. The war taught us we could endure anything. Now we get to learn if we can create anything. That's terrifying and wonderful, and exactly what we need. Far below, a human child and a Veziri child raced each other through the streets, their laughter carrying on the wind. Around them, Sanctuary lived and grew. proof that different species could build together instead of rule alone. Taman watched it all and felt something he hadn't felt in centuries. Hope. Real hope. Not the desperate hope of survival, but the quiet hope of building something better. He had slept after the war and woken to a vision no human expected.